There's a voice inside some people that never sleeps. It does not scream. It whispers. You're not enough. You ruin everything. No one could truly love you if they knew who you are. And after hearing that voice long enough, you stop questioning it. You start calling it the truth. Self-hatred is one of the darkest psychological prisons because the person trapped inside it does not even realize they are both the prisoner and the jailer. Most people think self-hatred begins with insecurity, but it usually begins with something far older, a wound. A child is not born hating themselves. A child learns it. Somewhere in the beginning, love became conditional. Maybe they were only praised when they achieved something. Maybe they were mocked for being emotional. Maybe they grew up around anger, criticism, humiliation, or neglect. And slowly, the child's mind made a terrifying conclusion. If I am treated this way, something must be wrong with me. This is how self-hatred is born, not from arrogance, not from weakness, but from survival. Psychology calls this internalization. When pain is repeated long enough, the mind stops blaming the world and starts blaming itself. Because believing I am bad feels safer than believing the people I needed never loved me correctly. A child cannot survive believing their parents are emotionally dangerous. So instead, they believe they themselves are the problem. And that belief follows them into adulthood like a shadow. The terrifying part is that self-hatred often hides itself. Some people become perfectionists. They obsess over success, appearance, money, status, productivity, not because they love themselves, but because they are desperately trying to earn the right to exist. Others become people pleasers. They sacrifice themselves for everyone. They fear rejection more than exhaustion because deep down, they believe love must be purchased through suffering. And some completely detach from life. They stop trying, stop dreaming, stop connecting, because if you secretly believe you are worthless, eventually failure starts feeling more comfortable than hope. This is why self-hatred is so destructive. It infects everything. Relationships become impossible because compliments feel fake. Success feels empty because the inner voice always says you could have done more. Even happiness feels suspicious. People with deep self-hatred often sabotage good things unconsciously, not because they want pain, but because pain feels familiar. The human mind is addicted to familiarity, even when familiarity is destroying it. This is why some people stay in toxic relationships, why they return to people who hurt them, why they tolerate disrespect. Deep down, suffering feels emotionally correct, because self-hatred creates a hidden belief. I deserve this. And perhaps the darkest part of all, many people with self-hatred become experts at hiding it. They laugh loudly. They post confidently online. They become successful, funny, attractive, charming. But when they are alone, the mask falls off, and suddenly the silence becomes unbearable. Because silence forces them to hear the voice again. Carl Jung believed that what we reject within ourselves does not disappear. It becomes part of what he called the shadow. The shadow is the hidden side of the personality, the parts we bury because we believe they are unacceptable. But self-hatred grows stronger in darkness. The more you reject yourself, the more fragmented you become. And eventually, people begin living divided lives. One version for the world, another version hidden inside. This is why some people feel fake all the time. Not because they are lying, but because they no longer know which version of themselves is real. The exhausted person everyone depends on, or the broken person nobody sees. And social media has made this psychological nightmare even worse. Every scroll becomes a comparison. Every image becomes evidence that someone else is happier, richer, more beautiful, more loved.
The mind turns life into a competition it can never win. And slowly, self-hatred evolves into self-surveillance. People begin monitoring every flaw, every awkward sentence, every mistake, every imperfection. They become both the victim and the bully. But here is the strange paradox. People who hate themselves are often the most compassionate toward others, because they understand pain deeply. Sometimes the kindest people are kind because they know exactly what cruelty feels like inside their own head. But compassion toward others means nothing if it never reaches yourself. Eventually, self-hatred becomes exhausting. The mind cannot survive endless war against itself forever. This is why many people feel emotionally numb. Numbness is not peace, it is psychological shutdown. The brain eventually says, if every thought hurts, feel nothing. And this is where people lose themselves completely. Not in sadness, but in emptiness. A hollow existence where they wake up, survive the day, distract themselves at night, and repeat the cycle again and again. No purpose, no connection, just survival. But psychology reveals something important. Self-hatred is rarely about who you are. It is usually about what happened to you. The voice inside your head was built from experiences, environments, memories, and emotional wounds. It was learned, which means it can also be unlearned. But healing feels terrifying for people who spent their entire lives at war with themselves. Because if suffering became your identity, who are you without it? Many people unconsciously cling to self-hatred because it feels familiar, predictable. Healing requires entering the unknown, and the unknown terrifies the human mind. But the truth is this: you cannot hate yourself into becoming someone worthy of love. It never works. Self-hatred does not create transformation. It creates fragmentation. The people who constantly punish themselves are not becoming stronger. They are slowly disappearing. Real healing begins when a person stops asking, "What is wrong with me?" and starts asking, "What happened to me that made me believe I was unworthy?" That single question changes everything, because the enemy was never truly you. It was the voice you inherited, the shame you absorbed, the pain you carried for too long. And maybe the darkest truth of all: many people spend their entire lives searching for someone to save them from the pain inside their head, without realizing the person they have been abandoning the most is themselves. So tonight, when the world becomes quiet, listen carefully to the way you speak to yourself, because eventually your mind becomes the place you live in. And if that place is filled with hatred, even paradise will feel like hell.